right?
Yeah, that's fine, not a problem.
Yeah, it's recording. But yeah, I had a couple of questions. I mean, it's mainly regarding like representation in media and fashion industry. So
Okay.
the first one is, what was your process to develop your style that you currently have now and like feel comfortable in your own skin?
Oh, good question. I think I'm still figuring that out. Obviously, I do have fashion to thank in a lot of ways for helping me come to terms with my gender identity, because if I hadn't, because there, when I was still identifying as female, I, would obviously wear, clothes designed for women, and I wouldn't feel comfortable in them. I'd try lots of different styles, but none of them felt quite right. I just thought, oh, I'm doing it wrong. And I did notice that, because I'm plus size, so I noticed that while there was a decent amount of representation for plus size women out there, and it is getting better, still a lot of work to be done, but still needs more. It's I don't know, it never felt quite right. So I just started wearing men's clothing because it was mostly the only stuff that would fit.
Yeah.
And it initially started out as like a convenience thing, and then I just saw myself in the mirror. I was like, oh, hang on, like I don't know, it just, something clicked, something felt correct. So I definitely have fashion in a way to thank for that, because I have felt way more confident compared to the past, experimenting with clothing that is generally geared towards men or masculine identities. And that has really helped me come out of my shell. There's obviously a lot of stuff that I would like to wear, but I find that they don't generally tend to make it for people with body types like my own. Obviously I still have a lot of typically feminine shapes because I'm pre everything at the moment, which won't help. There's only so many times you can look for men's trousers and think they're just not going to go for my hips, are they? But yeah, it's definitely had a massive impact on how I present and how comfortable I feel. And I do see things improving. I do see things getting better and people being more receptive to different body types and creating stuff for different body types and not just the usual ones that you see in the media and in the pictures all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then second question, how did you get comfortable with experimenting with yourself and presenting yourself and kind of going against the norm? Like, what, I mean, as you said,
Yeah.
you started wearing more masculine clothes, so kind of that situation.
I definitely think, honestly, I think being in lockdown allowed me to play around with it a bit more, because it was kind of like I could stand in front of my mirror and try one thing on and this and think, okay, that looks all right. Because I do believe that trying it on for yourself is a very different ballgame to actually going outside. I do still get quite nervous going outside and thinking, oh God, are they staring at me? And I know most of the time they're not, they don't care. But that's just an anxiety thing. But once I found clothing that I did feel comfortable in and I did think I looked good in, it did give me the confidence to think, oh, like there's got to be other stuff that I could look good in too, because I finally sort of found a baseline. And then I started, it gave me the confidence to, practice with accessorizing and like thinking like what top would go with what jacket and stuff. Because for a long time, I only like exclusively wore like black t-shirts and tracksuit bottoms because I was like, I look okay in these.
I feel that.
Yeah, like I mean, right now I'm still wearing mostly black because it's safe. It's go to if you spill something on it, it doesn't ruin you for the rest of the day. You can sort of get away with it. So it is, black's definitely a safe color for me, but I have experimented with like by adding more color to my wardrobe, because I'm like, I know what I look good in and I know that I can sort of branch out from that. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think because obviously, I think anyone should be able to wear whatever freaking clothing they want. If you are assigned male at birth, but you think that you look hella cute in a dress, wear the damn dress. Like, and I've always been an advocate for that. But at the same time, I do have that sort of enforced binary to thank, because I don't think I would have seen myself properly as male if I hadn't, you know, worn clothing associated with that. So it's kind of a tricky one. But yeah, so it's, I don't know. I don't know how to word this in a way that will be easy for you to put into a to be, you know, like something concise. But yeah, it's tricky because, like, yeah, I think lockdown has given me the confidence because I've been at home and I've sort of, you know, it's when you're left alone with your own thoughts because you know, you're not working, you're not going outside, you're just in the flat by yourself all the time. You're like, okay, well, what else have I got to do? So, you know, I spend a lot more time browsing online and thinking, oh, I could try that, oh, I could try that. So yeah, but where, you know, I'm still, you know, building up to having the confidence to going outside and, you know, fully experimenting. Obviously not working as much has meant that money is obviously trickier, which obviously makes it hard to look for clothing because not all of it's affordable. And obviously while there is, you know, while representation for people like myself is much better than it was, you know, it's still not affordable for everyone, which I understand, because it's still a new thing, I guess. And, you know, it's, I find that a lot of the trans representation is still geared towards those who are slimmer.
Yeah.
So bigger guys like me who are built a bit bigger can't necessarily relate or be, you know, get as excited about it, because I think that's super great that, you know, some of us are getting that. But I wish the opportunity was extended to all of us because, like, you know, like cis men, like cis women, we also come in all shapes and sizes and skin colors and backgrounds. And I think the opportunity should be extended to others. But, you know, I do think it's getting better. I just wish it would hurry up.
Yeah, it makes sense. And especially now with like all the shops closed, is like mainly kind of relying on online shopping, which is a whole another nightmare for like sizes and all of
Of
that.
course, yeah, because you can't, you can't try it on, or you can't at the very least hold it against your thing. Yeah, outfit. Like, it's such a risk, especially for people who don't have a huge amount of money and they want to expand their wardrobe, but they think, okay, it's buying. Obviously, I know, you know, when you buy something online, there is always going to be the little bit, oh, it might not fit. But when you're bigger, or when you've got a body shape that you know is not typical of the kind of clothing that it's not marketed towards your shape, it's a much bigger gamble because you think, yeah, this could look great on me, but that doesn't mean it's going to fit me. I've bought some awesome shirts and stuff that I absolutely love, but they don't necessarily do up over my chest because I've still got boobs, even when I'm binding, or something will fit over my waist, but it won't go over my hips.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. But it's a bit of a pain. But I mean, so I do end up sort of going for like super oversized stuff, which is great because it fits and it's comfortable, but it's not necessarily flattering. But it's it's just one of those things, isn't it? Like, I wear like women's skinny jeans and then like men's everything else. But yeah, I guess, you know, when you do have a different body shape, it does, you know, you sort of have no choice but to be a bit resourceful and creative. And then in doing so, it has allowed me to sort of look more in depth at like men's fashion and women's fashion and think, okay, so like, you know, women's fashion would be amazing if they added this, like men's jeans, for example, the classic, they have pockets, like actual pockets you can put things in, and that's great. Like, I'm wearing a men's hoodie right now and the pockets are massive and I love it and it's great. And then I tried on like a woman's hoodie the other day just because it was still in my wardrobe, and this one was in the wash and I was like, these are tiny, what are they doing? And it does, you know, it's so I definitely have an appreciation for like those two sides of it, because I am a customer of both. Which I guess, you know, if I were to ever model it, you know, anything like that, or I've always wanted to make my own fashion line, I would take that knowledge and like apply it and think, okay, so as someone who wore women's clothing for a long time, I know what women want, and I know, you know, what fits and what looks good and what flatters and what doesn't. But also, as a wearer of men's clothing, I also think they should do this. So I do think those of us in a similar situation have that kind of advantage. And I am interested to see it applied by creatives who are making clothing in the future, and hopefully there'll be a happy medium. I just want pockets on dresses, to be honest. That's what I want. I mean, I don't even wear dresses much anymore, but if they had pockets and I felt comfortable in it, hell yeah, I'd wear dresses more, because they're just so easy. They're so easy. But yeah, I don't know how much of this is useful, but hopefully it helps.
It's great to have a lot of different opinions, so it's what kind of I'm looking for, so it is great.
That's good. That's good. How many people have you spoken to so far about it?
For now, one, but because I started last week, like during the weekend, so I think I have other two this week, and then I need to email a couple of fashion students for the next couple of weeks. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully you get enough. You get plenty to actually give you something substantial.
So next question is, did you ever saw yourself reflected in the fashion industry or media? If so, who and when was it? Kind of like, I mean, if you see like a model that looks like you, or like some actor or activist that kind of speaks about like diversity and that kind of thing.
I think I couldn't name like a specific person. I think I think maybe when I was younger I might have done, like, because when I was younger I was skinny, I had long blonde hair, so I knew there were definitely probably models that looked like me, but I wasn't paying attention because I was like a kid, a teenager. I wasn't actually paying attention to that kind of stuff then. When I was older and when it actually started to matter to me, if I ever saw someone who had big boobs and they could wear something that, they weren't sexualized in, it was just them wearing something, or like finding binders that, or other trans men like me modeling stuff who were built bigger and had bigger chests, that, that was like, yes, that's amazing. Like, it was, because for a long time I didn't really identify with a lot of models I saw in the media, because when I identified as female before I realized I was trans, I would see other plus size women, but I don't know, it still felt like there was a disconnect. Yeah. And then I started seeing more plus size trans people in the media, and I was especially FTM trans folks, so that was nice. It was nice to look at them and go, I identify with you, because like you have had a very similar experience to me body wise, and finding stuff that works for you. So it definitely really wasn't until the last couple of years that I started identifying more strongly with. So I mean, I think there's a couple folks on Instagram who I follow who are transgender, and they model, or they celebrate their bodies, and I can probably send those to you if you need like specific names.
It would be great.
But naturally, I'm drawing a like I know who I've got in my mind, but I've completely forgotten their bloody Instagram handles. But I'll pop those in the chat for you. But yeah, so it wasn't until very recently, like last couple years.
Yeah. And last question is, what changes would you like to see regarding representation in media and fashion industry?
Obviously more plus size representation, naturally. Again, it is, leaps and bounds ahead of where it used to be. But I definitely like more plus size men as well. Like, obviously celebrating plus size women, I think, is absolutely needed, and obviously I don't want that to stop in any way. It would be nice to see plus size men celebrated in fashion in a way that isn't like, oh, this is Fat Dave, he goes to the pub and he plays darts, and they sort of become like they're treated more as a character. Whereas I know a lot of guys who are built bigger who do legit just want to look nice, and they don't want to be treated as like a joke or a goofy one just because they're built bigger. Like, they have every right to walk onto a runway and feel their oats and think I look amazing. So I do think that bigger guys and bigger non-binary folks as well, and anybody who doesn't identify as any of those gender identities, they should all be celebrated. Obviously racial diversity, it's not really something that I could say, like, obviously I can look at it and say I'm pretty sure it has got better, but as someone who's white, I'm obviously not going to speak for people of color who feel represented, whether they do or whether they don't. But I could say that it could always stand to be done better. Disabled representation as well. While I don't have any physical disabilities, I did grow up deaf for a little while, and I am autistic, so I guess my my impediments were more invisible. And obviously you can't necessarily always get that across in a picture without it like you're being reduced to a stereotype. But just little things like having a model and you can see that they've got a hearing aid in, I think would be so powerful for a lot of deaf kids who grew up thinking, oh, I can't be this, I can't be that because I can't hear, or I can't hear as well. I think that would be amazing. And yeah, more autistic models as well, because when I was a kid I didn't see a lot of folks like me who acted sort of in the way that I did, and I think that would be really useful for kids as well growing up. But yeah, I think, again, I do think it's a lot better than it was, and I do see people actively campaigning to try and improve things more, and I am optimistic about the future. But yeah, I mean, it's why I'm such a big fan of Rain and everything that they do, because they fully just completely say, you know, F you to the gender norms. They're like, yeah, I will wear men's and women's clothing. I will model as a man and a woman while living my life as neither. And, you know, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to change my core values. And I have so much respect for them and how they do that. It's just so, like, I love it. I think that, you know, seeing more folks with sort of Rain's kind of work ethic and sort of mindset would be great as well. Because obviously, while I have no doubt that it's great to be known as the person doing that, you shouldn't be the only one. It should hopefully encourage more, because obviously after a while, like, sure, standing out in your field for being something completely different is great, but you know, you don't want to look like an anomaly, like an outlier. You want to be like, there are so many people like me who have not been given the chance to shine. Like, I'm not a token, I'm not a novelty act. I am a person, and I'm representing a completely underrepresented group of people like myself. Yeah. And I hope that, you know, it shines a spotlight on, you know, lesser recognized groups of people who deserve to be celebrated. Yeah. But yeah, I think I'll stop waffling now. I think that's everything.
I mean, we still have a couple of minutes if you wanted to add anything.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure if there's any. Are you looking for, like, is there anything else specifically that you needed to ask, or?
No, really, because like my piece is kind of like based on like people on perspective on like media and mass media, like fashion industry and all of that. So like I'm talking to only people that fit at least in like a minority, whether it's like for their bodies, like plus size or anything like that, or like non-binary people, trans people, like some kind of racial diversity. So I mean, it's just really useful to hear like people perspective and opinion on like what is kind of the normality, that of course is not like what the normality really is, but like what is portrayed to be like.
Yeah, like I do think, like I mentioned earlier, like while again I don't believe that clothing should be gendered, I also acknowledge the impact and the role that it has in allowing a lot of people to come to terms with their gender identity. So it is kind of a double-edged sword. Same with I absolutely think, you know, people of color, indigenous folks, people who are transgender, people who are plus size, people who are non-binary, you know, any underrepresented group should be celebrated. And I think it would be great if somebody in one of those groups would see something and it was highlighted as, you know, this is an indigenous owned brand, this is a Black woman owned brand, this is a trans owned brand. Like, they would see that and go, oh my God, that's me. And it's like, it's frustrating because you want it to stand out just enough so that people in those groups can feel recognized and seen and heard. But also there comes a point, like, we all, you know, you don't want to be treated like a token. You want to eventually, you want it to be as normal as being a white, blonde, straight woman on a billboard. Like, you want it to have the same kind of footing, but for it to do so, it does need to be given, you know, a slightly, it's like the whole equity thing. You know, you need to make a bit more of a conscious effort for those to be seen first, which is why there's going to seem like there's so much focus, but it's not. It's just bringing them up to the top. But yeah, I would love for, you know, for one day to just see a plus size black woman on a billboard next to a slim white man, and just think, okay, like, and just, you know, be like, they clothes, like, there doesn't need to be a specially designated line for a certain body type. You can just walk in and know that you'll find it. And if you can't find it, it's purely because it's out of stock. It's not because they're going to look at you and go, oh, we don't make clothes for people like you. You want to walk in and just go, oh, I know I can walk in and they will have something for someone like me. Because at the moment, you know, some people do feel separated from the rest. They do feel like they have to sort of, you know, go into another shop or, you know, beg designers to, you know, represent it. And that shouldn't be a thing. And obviously I know it's the whole like supply and demand, but like, if anything, social media and like digital activism over the last few years has taught us that there is absolutely a demand for more than what they think there is. And I hope that people wake up and realize that, you know, there is more than one or two or three body types and skin types out there. And, you know, it isn't one size fits all or one size suits all. There needs to be more of a conscious effort to try and cater for as many people as you can. And I think that can be done. And, you know, fashion is art, and it's like, it's the perfect opportunity to be creative and to, you know, think, okay, this skin tone might wash out this color might wash out a skin tone, so let's try with another color. And obviously I acknowledge the work that goes into it. It's a lot of work. But I think that the people who still view fashion as an art form should take this opportunity and think, this is like one of the coolest things I can do. I can be as creative as I want, and I can celebrate all these body types and all these skin tones and all these people of different backgrounds. And like, I think that's amazing. And honestly, I'm surprised that more people aren't viewing it right like that. They're rather viewing it as an inconvenience rather than this is an amazing opportunity to be incredibly innovative and shape fashion and shape outward expression for people for many generations to come. So hopefully people wake the fuck up and start doing that.
I mean, yeah.
That's my rant done. I think that's everything I want. Like, again, I always wanted to make my own fashion line. I've been designing. I say I didn't really look for representation as a kid because I didn't think about that, but I was always designing clothes as a kid. I've always been designing stuff. I was I'd love to wear that. This is the top that I would wear. I remember when I was 9, I wrote Beyonce lyrics onto a t-shirt shape, and I was like, I'm a goddess, fashion goddess. I'm an innovator. And I was like, I can't. Now looking back, I cringe. But it's yeah, and it's one of those things where I don't think people realize just how ingrained fashion is into so many people's like psyche. Like, even just something like, you know, you open your wardrobe and you grab a t-shirt, you think, why'd you grab that one over the red one? Why'd you grab the yellow one over the pink one? Like, it's ingrained. Everybody, you know, fashion is in everybody's mind to some extent, no matter how limited their access is. There's always a bit there, and I think people should start tapping into that.
Yeah.
But yeah.